So today we're going to do a jellyfish, and I'm just going to use a blending of different colors, putting a splotch here, a splotch there, just changing it up ever so often and blending. And what I really love about having a big mold to work with like this is that the amount of surface area means that I don't have to go over it with an alcohol cloth and lift away some color like I would have to do on smaller molds, because it's just impossible not to get your one color everywhere. So it's really nice that I can skip that step with these larger molds. And I really do love these Let's Resin kind of chromatic looking colors. So I'm going to link them in the description, because you should definitely get some of these for yourself if you're interested in learning how to do this. I've done quite a few pieces using the Let's Resin brand, and it has not disappointed so far. Gonna knock that residue loose, and now we're gonna get in some of the smaller areas, and I'm tilting it at an angle here so I can see. I highly recommend you do that because it's very easy to miss the little corners if you don't. And I'm basically doing the same thing I was doing with the wider area, the middle of the jellyfish, and it's just grabbing colors at very random intervals. There really is no method to the creative madness here. Again, I have so much surface area to work with, I can just really have fun with it and not have to think too hard about where I'm laying down color. Well, I will in one spot, but that's for later. I'm gonna cap that, and I did get a little bit of powder where I didn't necessarily want it, so I am gonna use a little cotton swab to clean up a little bit. It's okay if some of that got onto the legs of the jellyfish. I just don't want clumps. I want this to be as smooth as I can possibly get it. And now I'm going to switch to this grape color. This is another really iridescent and fun color I like to work with. Very shiny, but it does have a very nice effect. And I'm basically just going to go ahead, make sure I get all of the little grooves. And like the top of the jellyfish, I'm kind of just spacing out where I put down color, because I'm going to want to go in and blend a different color with it. And now I'm going to start adding some of this pearlescent white color down. I'll also link you the brand to this one. I keep a lot of different brands of mica powder close at hand because I like to have a big variety of colors and a large color wheel to work with. And I didn't have this pearly white with the other kit. And I definitely wanted to blend some white into this, because that nice white pearly color is going to complement the other addition I'll be adding to the lower tentacles. And again, I'm just going over and blending all of this. Now I'm just going to clean up this area because this lower half of the jellyfish is actually the part where I need to be kind of specific about how I lay down my colors, and you're going to see why eventually. I'm doing something a little bit different with this jellyfish that I hadn't tried before. But for it to work, I don't want these lower tentacles to all be completely covered with color. I'm going to have a little bit of transparency peeking through. That's starting to come together beautifully. I do want to blend at the seam here. Just a little bit more of this pearlescent color, not a lot. Because as I stated earlier, I do want a couple of clear pieces on the feet of the jellyfish. That's coming together. I'm going to mix my resin at the 1-to-1 ratio. As you can see in the top left corner, I use a little food scale to measure resin because I do not trust my eyes, and honestly neither should you. I don't care how many of those little silicone measuring cups they mark for you, it's never going to be as accurate as measuring by ounces, so I highly recommend you invest in one of those if you want to get the most accurate measurement for your resin. Also, I feel it might be prudent to add, I am not actually stirring as fast as it looks. I've sped up this video just so you don't have to watch me do all 4 minutes of very slowly stirring my resin. You're supposed to stir slow because it really does help prevent the formation of those little micro bubbles that you don't want. But honestly, the brand of resin I'm using, I feel also has a lot to do with that, and I'm going to link that in my description. And as you can see, a little bit of mica powder really does go a long way. And I just want a little smidge of white, so it'll help pick up those colors I've already put down and add a little bit of brightness. This is really looking good. I'm liking the way this is mixing. Now I'm going to put that to the side for just a moment. Move that out of the way because I don't want it anywhere near where I'm working, and wax paper is your best friend if you're going to be doing these types of crafts, because resin does not stick to wax paper, funnily enough. So if there are any spills at all from your mold, once it cures on the wax paper, it peels right away from it the way it would from silicone. And of course, we want to protect the surface that we're working with. And now we pour. Slowly, I just want to fill up the top part for right now. The jellyfish mold is so big, I know that I'm not going to get it done in one pour. So I've taken care to put the most heavily pigmented resin towards the top, where I've colored the mold solidly. Because like I keep saying, I do want the lower legs to have a little bit of transparency to them. So my second pour of resin is not likely to have as thick a mica powder. And I'm just going to use this little spatula device to kind of get into the smaller cracks like the feet, because the resin doesn't always want to move there on its own. But once you get a little bit into that area, it starts to flow where you want it to a little bit easier. At least with this brand of resin it does. And I'm just scraping the little leftover residual bits of resin using the side of the silicone mold. And again, wax paper is magic, so don't worry about putting your tools down. As long as you have some wax paper under there, you're safe. Now it's time for me to mix the second batch of resin so that we can go ahead and get the lower tentacles filled in, and you'll soon see why I didn't want to go over everything with the mica powder, and that's because I'm saving it for something special. And this is the something special. I have a bunch of these beautiful beads that I'm also going to put in the description of my video of where you can purchase them for your own crafts. They're very beautiful. I have never regretted integrating them into my resin crafts, but I've never done it on a jellyfish before. So I'm very excited to see how this is going to turn out. Now, I'm not going to put a whole ton of mica powder additive to that. In fact, I might not add anything to this at all. But I am going to go ahead and finish filling in the legs. Now you're going to want to put this resin down first, because if you put the beads down first, the resin's just going to move them, and they might not end up in the spot you want them in. So this step first. Now, before I get started on the beads, I did have some leftover resin. So I mixed some blue, an icy blue, and I have a bunch of these little tiny bird molds. And what I do with them is going to be another video, otherwise this would get way too long. But having a bunch of smaller little molds nearby is a really useful and creative way to not waste your leftovers. So I highly recommend having those nearby and ready when you're doing a big project like this and you think you'll have a significant amount of resin left. As we all know, resin is not cheap, and we want to use every little bit of it that we can, especially when it's good quality resin like this. Now we're going to put that to the side and start placing our beads. And no, I'm not wearing gloves, only because I've done this, a billion times, and I'm not coming into contact with any resin, I'm just dropping them on the surface. In random spots, at different sizes. And also because I want to work fast while the resin is still able to be manipulated. So you notice I'm using big and small and medium size, adding a bit of variation to this, and I think these colors are going to look good. All you need is a toothpick to kind of tap on them just so that they go beneath the surface like you want them to, because you don't want them floating around on the surface. You want them to actually be in there and get sealed in. And the good thing about the toothpick is that it fits perfectly into those little holes. So if any of the holes are face up, all you have to do is grab it with the toothpick and just pull it right side up. And I'm just gonna nudge, where I want them to go. So see, even if they don't land exactly how you want them, it doesn't matter. You just need a nice thin little stick. Now I'm just spraying the surface very lightly with alcohol just to prevent micro bubbles. As you can see, I didn't use a lot, and I did that really fast. Now the moment of truth. Oh my gosh. That is amazing. Look at that. All the little beads showing through on the parts that I didn't paint over with mica powder. That's exactly what I wanted. I'm really thrilled with how this came out. Oh, this is an amazing piece. If you've stuck with me this far, would you do me a favor and go ahead and hit the like button? I'm a small channel and it will help me grow. And if you've already watched 2 or 3 of these videos, why not go ahead and subscribe? I've got much more to come.